Good evening and welcome to the December 13th, 2011 Waterboro Board of Selectmen meeting. If you'd all rise, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're a few minutes late potential appointment to some of our committees in town. So thanks for your patience in bearing with us. Do we have any announcements from anyone? Okay. Seeing none there, I've got a couple that I've been asked to announce. There's an art show tonight at 7 p.m. sponsored by the Waterboro Parks and Recreation. It's on the other side of the building. You're certainly welcome to come down and look at the fine work that some of the younger residents of the community have undertaken. I've been assured by the director that it's quite a showing over there. So if you have the time and a few minutes, you ought to come down and take a look at that. I'm sure the kids would be excited to see you. I have a meeting notice from the Waterboro Charter Review Commission. The Charter Review Commission will not meet on December 19th nor January 2nd due to the holidays. They will resume their regular schedule of meeting the first and third Monday of each month on January 16th at 7 p.m. in the Old Town Hall meeting room. And they wish happy holidays to all. No other announcements? Okay. The first appointment we have this evening is the capital improvement plan presentation with the staff and the committees. So you have the floor, Mr. Ursha.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board members. I'm happy to be before you this evening to present the efforts of your staff and putting together this year's capital improvement plan. We've made a lot of discoveries along the way, certainly facing the economic realities that we are as a community and as staff people. There was a significant amount of due diligence that was done in the preparation of this CIP. And everyone was very mindful of the economic realities. What you have before you, and what I'd like to do is synopsize some of these projects this evening. What you have before you, just to inform the public, is I took the advice of the board and tried to simplify a rather complicated process. And so this year, we've tried to get it all on one page that gives a synopsis of what the big picture is in terms of capital improvement projects that are being proposed. Tonight I'd like to suggest that we look at the big picture, and there's a significant amount of detailed work that's been done by each of the department heads. And what I've prepared and I'll hand out after our mutual presentation is all the details that went into arriving at these figures. Since the plan department's been involved with the capital investment plan, we've taken it upon ourselves as part of that due diligence to do at least one estimate or one quotation current so that we can have real 2012 figures, particularly for the next fiscal year. As everyone's aware, but to inform the public, the CIP is done on a 5-year basis. One of the outcomes of the staff, and I believe there's a strong consensus on it, is that we may need to look in the future more towards 3-year capital plans, because the forecast and projecting out for 5-year plans has become so difficult. And that's been a recommendation by several of the department heads. And we'd like to have a conversation with the board surrounding that, so that in the preparation of the next CIP, do we stay with the traditional 5-year plan, or do we look at something that's of a 3-year framework? So these details are available. They're all put in the same sequence and order that you have them before you in the spreadsheet. For the public that's here, there's some additional sheets. Roger, if you'd like to share these with the public.
Oh, okay.
If anyone would like to have a copy of these. These are proposed projects. And we have a couple of our committees here, or staff people, that if you did want to pose a specific question, feel free to direct it towards Lynn or to Roger. It's broken into 5 components. This year you'll notice that there's an absence of any submittal as a capital investment project from the library. In the years past, there's always been a library component. This year, the head librarian decided that she'd like to take a step back and evaluate everything that needs to be done, and also look at it in the context of the mandate of the last town meeting, to look at any point, at some point in the undefined future, is there a way of doing an addition to the library? So a significant amount of pro bono work has been done, and at some point we may want to have an opportunity to share that information with you, but it's not presented in any form as a capital investment, because there's still a goodly number of unanswered questions. So just to give you an overview, I'm just going to focus this evening on the next fiscal year, but you do have the data that has been forecasted out for 5 years. Under municipal facilities and planning, and I'm just going to give a quick synopsis of each one of these. For a goodly number of years, we've had the GIS software, and to a certain extent have fallen victim of criticism that we haven't properly used that software. And so what we've done is we've gone out and explored what it would take to take our current software, which is the most current version of ArcGIS, which is a very sophisticated geographic information system. And it's one that most municipalities use. What it would take to get it to be web-based. We have discovered, David and I have discovered in our research, that to do this internally is almost cost prohibitive. And also the amount of power it takes, of muscle power to run a very sophisticated GIS system is almost prohibitive in a small town like ours. Most municipalities have external hosts, and this is what's being proposed here. We went out and we researched 2 different firms that would provide the capabilities to web host our GIS system. And in addition to that, also to prepare planimetric maps, which would be valuable to the town, the planning board, and certainly to the master planning committee. The cost for doing that is $35,000, and that would include hosting up until the year 2014. The next question that usually comes as a result of that is, well, what happens after 2014? What kind of cost does the community bear? At that point, it would be simply hosting costs. In many cases, the hosting cost also rolls in the maintenance cost, because the host normally has such a high level of sophistication, they're always keeping their files and their software systems up to date. Typically, or currently, that hosting cost is $200 a month. In this particular proposal, it would be hosted for up until 2014. The next item is proposed by the Director of Parks and Recreation. It's a proposal for upgrading and updating playground equipment. For a new location, it would be where the Fundergy activities are going on. I don't know a lot of the details because Mike has recently proposed that there may be some opportunities to expand the recreational opportunities on the other end of Town Hall. That forecasted cost is at $20,000. The next item is in information technology. This is a project that was proposed for the last couple of years. The numbers have been updated. It's to take the current information board or announcement board at Town Hall and to turn it into an electronically programmable LED sign. The cost that's currently estimated on that is $11,450. The next three, I'll refer to them as bundles, large bundles of public works projects that have been posed by the Road Review Committee. I can either explain them, or Roger, if it's your preference to explain them, you may. Would you like me to just do? What I'm going to do is just give you a quick synopsis. Again, there's more detail that's provided in the full information packet. Our Road Review Committee has worked really hard this year to identify an immense number of infrastructure projects that we have fallen behind on because of economic realities. And they've defined for the next 3 years, a series of bundled projects that for fiscal year 12 to 13, it would be the engineering of Hamilton Road, the continuation of the ditching program, which was initiated a couple years ago, Phase 1 improvements to Blueberry Road and to the New Dam project. In the following fiscal years, and I think this is worthy of mentioning, it'll be continuation of the ditching program, Phase 2 of Blueberry Road, and engineering for Straw Mill Brook Road. What happens is you have a continuum here, is each year you're doing a series of engineering services, but each year you're also starting to pick away at some of the reconstruction projects that are starting to become overwhelming. And the approach that the Road Review Committee has taken is to bundle these projects for the next couple of years because they have a handle on what they think they would cost. They've decided not to forecast out, and Roger, correct me if I'm inaccurate here, for year 4 and year 5 because it's just too hard to forecast some of those costs. And so that's why you see their projects are bundled and shown for the next 3 fiscal years. Let's see, is Matt here? Matt is not here, so I'm going to attempt to highlight his most important projects. His most important projects are the purchase of a new forestry firefighting truck with some very specific specifications. That's estimated out at slightly over $62,000. The next project is to replace the roof at South Station, the hose tower, install flashing, and entirely side the building of South Station. Estimated cost in 2012 dollars, $55,000. Replacement of the 2001 Ford Type 3 ambulance. In my many discussions with Matt, that is the fire department's highest priority, given the age of the current ambulance. And next, to purchase 2 ambulance power cots for Rescue 1 and 2. Estimated cost for fiscal 12 project is $28,000. And lastly, for fiscal year 12 and 13, from the fire department, installation of a vehicle exhaust removal system, estimated currently at $50,000. As we move on to the transfer station, Clint, jump in at any point that you wish. Clint has one of the more bashful proposals for fiscal year 12. Two projects showing up for fiscal year 12-13. One is to replace and to purchase 2 aging 40-yard roll-off containers, estimated in fiscal $12 at about $14,000. And secondly, to construct a 20 by 20 steel frame building to cover the compactor and the sliding roof system, estimated at $20,000. Now, Clint has also done an immense amount of work, and thank you, Clint, for updating all those estimates. I realize what a tough task that is and a tough chore. But Clint does have a series of other projects that are proposed for the next 4 years. Would the board like me to go through those projects additionally? Or
For the purpose of discussion, why don't we just stick with what...
fiscal year 12?
This year, yeah, fiscal 12,
Okay.
so it doesn't get too confusing.
Now, for some of you that are tallying up the figures,
Yes.
and I can see the rhythm going up front here with tallying the figures. If my calculations are correct, for these 11, 12 projects, it comes to about $718,000. There are 2 heavy projects in there, certainly the ambulance at $200,000 and the bundle of engineering projects and road improvement and road reconstruction projects that are proposed by the Road Review Committee.
Under the fire department, has the installation of vehicle exhaust removal system been removed as an item of consideration, or, because I didn't hear you mention that, and I'm just wondering what the status of it.
It's on the list.
I see it on the list, but when he went down through and highlighted the
No,
items...
he mentioned it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I must have completely...
I think you were tallying up the numbers, realizing how big the numbers are getting, Gordon. I believe that's still an active, needed project at the fire department. The purpose tonight is more to just kind of give an overview of where the staff sees some of these urgencies. And as the board is well aware, some of these projects have been carried over from year to year. It's complex, it's a challenge. The best that I've heard is...
Tom, why, I mean, and I know Matt's not here, so I guess it's you got to speak for him or whatever, or take the message back. First of all, I think, you know, $400,000 for the fire department is probably real unrealistic in 1 year anyway. But the replacement of the ambulance, we wouldn't pay $200,000 in 1 fiscal year.
That's
right.
That's absolutely correct.
We would ultimately, you know, profile that expenditure, those capital expenditures. The money would be potentially committed, okay, but it wouldn't be spent in 1 fiscal year.
Absolutely true.
So I'm not sure why we would budget it in 1 fiscal year in the capital plan.
Well, each one of these, as you're aware, Dennis, would have perhaps a different funding mechanism.
Yep.
In some cases, let's just use for comparison purposes, because road reconstruction projects are beginning to become so overwhelming, there may come a time at some undefined point in the future that municipal bond becomes your financing mechanism that's spread over time. And the same thing, I think, with larger capital outlays that deal with equipment. Sometimes there's advantages.
And again, I don't want to put you on the spot. We can have that discussion with Matt, but you know, relative to the total. But I think, you know, the road department has got, you know, $600,000, $700,000 worth of stuff in the road review, but it's spread over a 3-year period of time. Probably a little more realistic to take it 1 bite at a time. And I know we've pushed some things for the fire department from previous years to this year's, but to consume 60% of the entire nut that we're talking about in the fire department is probably not palatable whatsoever to the taxpayers.
Let me just talk to the ambulance. I think the ambulance would be done over several years, but it wouldn't be done, it wouldn't be planned over, let's say, 5 years. It could be, but right now, you're 2 years behind on the schedule there. So if you're buying ambulances every 5 years with a 10-year life, then we're already 2 years behind on one ambulance. So then you might want to finance it for over a 3-year period rather than a 5-year period, because you'll be having another one coming up in 2 years. So that 200,000 might be spread over 3 years. I mean, if you spread it over 5 years and you try to stay up with the schedule, then you're going to be financing 2 ambulances for 2 years. I have a question on the roads. Is what percentage of this cost of $222,000 is engineering?
I'm going to do it from memory, and then I'm going to double check. I believe the engineering is $8,000. Is that correct, Roger?
I think it's 8,000 for the first year.
Let me just do a quick check, David, so we can give you an accurate number on that.
So it's a small part of it.
It's a small piece of that, exactly.
That's always a question that comes up. That you pay the $8,000 for professional engineering, and the question sometimes I've talked with Doug and say, you know, some engineering studies may be very useful, and others there's enough non-professional but licensed professional that you can save yourself the $8,000 and it can be planned without a professional engineer. Now, I don't know what the
This particular 8,000 is for the engineering at the Hamilton Road. It's for the renewal of the existing bridge, which we definitely going to need engineering for.
yeah,
It's
okay.
it's not for the road, it's for the bridge itself.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
John, I think it's worth talking just a minute or so on that. Your point's well taken. There are opportunities where the road commissioner or staff can participate in doing some fairly simplistic, non-civil engineering things when it gets involved with dams and bridges. And also, I'm finding particularly drainage studies that on flat land. Flat land's the hardest to drain. And so it requires a real sophisticated look as to how you move those waters, such as the case on the old Alfred Road. So by comparison, just to give you an illustration, doing the old Alfred Road just from Friendship Park down to the school is a $30,000 engineering study. Fortunately, you know, we have 80% of that covered through state funds. But those are the complexities of certain engineering. But you're right, John, there are opportunities.
I mean, yeah, I mean, bridges, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you need to have the certified person there because, but then, you know, there's certain periods of road that you can pay engineers for that Doug will say, hey, you know, that won't cost you anything, and I can do basically the same thing. And
There are certain mechanisms, and I only pass this on from experience in other communities. Dams are something you need to be very precautious about because of the accountability factor. If something does go wrong, it's always great to have an engineer's seal on the accountability of certain structural conditions that exist in very complicated made dams. And so the selectmen have been very attentive to that, but it's something that we need to constantly be looking at because if there ever is a catastrophic storm, we need to be protected by engineering studies showing any potential defaults in any type of structural conditions of anything.
okay, going on to the transfer station. My question is, 2 cans enough, Clint? I mean, those cans are in terrible shape.
Well, we're fixing up 2 really now, and we're buying a new one
This year?
this year.
Okay.
The reason I put that in there though is because we really do need some real good ones.
I know you do.
And You don't know how long these, the ones we're repairing, how long they're gonna last, maybe 2 years.
Okay, now,
And we did get money last year from the CIP, but it wasn't enough to buy two, it's only enough to buy one and pay the shipping. But we'll have some money left over there that probably, I assume, can be used to repair.
another question is, priority-wise, paving versus a backhoe. I mean, you got the paving ahead of the backhoe. I mean, the tractor is
Well,
on its last leg.
we put quite a bit into it so far this year, and I'm hoping we can get at least another year, maybe two out of it. It was just a guess, but we need to do some paving down there. It's just like the town road. You notice even with the compactor, the first paving that was done there years ago, it's really starting to break up now. It should have something done to it. I'm just hoping that backhoe will, we take care of it a little better, and maybe it'll last another 2 or 3 years. I don't know.
Okay. And one other question here on transfer station out there. This is way out there, so maybe we shouldn't even talk about it, but $60,000 for scales.
Yeah.
I think you need to relook that.
Well,
I don't even want to talk about it tonight, I'm just saying.
if you remember, just quickly, go back, we had one we could have bought for 16,000 last year, and I talked to the salesman, he said they have all kinds of secondhand ones, but he said put in the 60,000, and that, it'll probably never cost that amount.
Well, I think if you put in 60,000 and they're aware of it through public discussion and so forth, that they're certainly going to tailor, their fees that way. I mean, if they know that there's 60,000 in a pool, if you said there was only 20, then they could probably come down to a reasonable price.
At the time when that comes up, and that we would have to actually go out there and look and see if we can find a good second. They claim there's all kinds of them out there for what we need down there. So,
Clint, so what you're saying is we put 10,000 plus into the capital plan this year for can.
yeah,
Saying that will not buy two?
no.
Okay. Well,
They
I'm not
don't,
sure you can take the money left over out of a capital account and decide you're gonna go repair stuff with it.
no, okay.
So, anyway, we'll cross that bridge during the budgeting season.
While you're talking about the 20 by 20 building, what I'm hoping that we can do is set up a dedicated account and take some of this money that we have left over at the end of the year, maybe put in there. We don't have to do that this year. But I'd like to set something up so there's money at least put away towards that. If it's possible.
I'm not sure that that's allowed on the tail end versus putting that in the budget now, setting up like an enterprise account or something at the beginning where you take X number of dollars and put it in there, and it stays in there. But at the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken, it has to roll back into
Unless
general fund.
unless there's a specific article in town meeting
Yeah.
that says X dollars from any revenues remaining will be dedicated to, but that's an article of town meeting.
Well, listening to your auditor, and, I assume that's some of these
The
departments, that's what's
auditor
gonna
would love to
happen.
see us have a enterprise fund. And we could have one. It might only have $1,000 in it, but, when it should have $1 million, but.
I'm not saying it's not a good idea to put something away. I'm just trying to, think of the best mechanism to do that that's that's appropriate.
Mr. Chairman and full board, one thing that's absent in this, and it's worthy of a really good conversation, and I think, Dennis, you were hinting at it, there's a growing need for an enterprise fund or a fund that will give you the mechanism to have matching monies for any type of grant system that comes up, let's say 1 month after town meeting has been held. You'll find yourselves with your hands tied to participate in certain funding mechanisms because very few of them now are 100% funds. Almost all of them are 50-50 or 80-20s, which means the town has to contribute between 20 and 50%. More and more small and larger communities are putting aside some monies that are dedicated purely for those types of events. And there's some strong wisdom in doing that. You know, person I think we all admire is Warren Buffett, and he recently said, which I think is worth repeating, someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. And the same thing applies with our grant systems, that if we are prepared and an opportunity comes up, let's say with a reconstruction project or a need for engineering monies, we've already discovered how expensive it is to engineer projects. The board undoubtedly remembers from last year in the road review committee's proposal to do engineering on Bennett Hill Road. The estimated cost just for the engineering, not for the reconstruction of any of it, was $84,000 to $104,000 in engineering costs, engineering and surveying costs. And so the complexities are getting huge, and I would encourage that conversation. If there's any type of assignment or task the board would like me to go on to research how other communities are doing that sort of thing, just purely for the educational piece of it, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Why is Department of Public Works conspicuously absent from the capital plan? Or anything under there? Or is it listing that under Road Review Committee?
Yes, it was the advice of the town administrator a couple years ago to bundle all of the types of road projects and infrastructure projects on the Road Review Committee. You bring up a good point, Gordon. I think the time has come where there may be a necessity to create a special category that deals with public works projects.
I know in my
It's absent here, but it's
in my discussions with him, you know, he has certainly mentioned the ditching component that the Road Review Committee has identified here, and also extensive paving that has to be done within the municipality. And I know that he would like to see an excavator next year. And that doesn't reflect anywhere in here, unless that's something that he intends to put in his budget, but I think the dollar amount would prohibit that. It would be a CIP item, I would
In the
believe. So I'm
absence-
just wondering,
yeah,
are
in
we
the
missing,
absence-
are we missing something that we should be considering? So,
I'm going to generally answer that. I think we need Doug's presence to respond to that. He may be contemplating, and I don't know the answer to this, some of the things that may be absent here in his operational budget.
Which could be, you know, the lead, I mean, today we have a backhoe and loader that's on lease. It was not through the capital program, it was through the lease program. But, so I'm not sure whether that may be something that, but the point is that those items should be at least ferreted out to say, are there or will there be things in the road commissioner's budget exclusive of the road committee's budget that would be or could be perceived as being capital?
It's a point well taken. I think we've reached the level of maturity where this represents a portion of the projects, but I believe there's still a goodly number still out there. One of the approaches that we might consider, if it's the selectmen's desire, is to actually build an asset list. And when you you know what you're managing in terms of your asset management list, and then that also gives away the things that need replacing, as well as the things that are totally absent. And so that may very well be a dovetail to your CIP, particularly as the sense of urgency builds on retiring some of this old equipment. So I don't know if that list does exist. Do you know, Gordon, if there's an asset management list of all of our assets?
Nancy would know that, but I think we do have a list.
So if we have a list of our property assets and our equipment assets, and we put all that together, it'll be very clear. And then we also define the age of those assets. It'll be very clear and dovetail into this.
Then you got to put into how much money has to be put in a reserve to replace those assets over time.
Exactly, exactly. But I feel as though we've arrived at that place in the community where the CIP is only valuable if we do a couple other things to make it very clear to everyone, Gordon's point on public works and public work assets. And the many things that are still missing. For many years, the conversation has been started about a salt shed or a multi-purpose shed. That's absent in this CIP. It's been discussed for years with the hopes that there might be a grant system. There is no grant system at the state level. There used to be, and there's no grant system at the federal level. And there's little hope that one's going to surface in the next 3 or 4 years. And those can be ghastly expensive, as we've proven in the analysis over the last couple of years of looking at what it costs to make a multifunctional building that's just not storing sand and salt, but also is protecting your equipment. So you're right, Gordon. We need to take it to the next step, and that's a conversation that the selectmen, I'm sure, have had many times.
I think we're at a point where, and certainly, Tom, I know that in the past few years you've kind of coordinated and pooled all of the stuff together with regard to the capital plan, but I think we need to, as a board and with Nancy and everyone, sit down and have a discussion of who should be managing a capital plan. It's one thing to pull all the stuff together, but I'm not sure that we looked at Tom to say, well, you need to be have fiduciary responsibility over the management of the capital plan. So, because that kind of goes back, but I think we're at a place where we got to make some rational decisions of how do we go forward, what do we present to the people, of how much money do we commit on an annualized basis. And I'm still a big fan of, all of these are wonderful things, but when there's only so much money, you got to take the item that is the most pressing, right, and fund that, and it's a rack and stack deal, right? I mean, there's only so many things that are going to.
That's true.
We got to be willing, as a Board of Selectmen, to say that we want to put aside and stand behind putting aside X amount of money, whether it be 150,000 or something like that, that goes into that contingency for a possible grant, and also for the salt shed, for et cetera. So we've got to be willing to say there's 150 or 100,000 or whatever it is put aside that isn't for anything in particular, and take the incoming when we from a certain, not from everybody, because there's a lot of people are going to be certainly behind it, but there's going to be some flack.
I think it's time also to go back to the title of Public Works rather than Road Review Committee. Every other department here is listed as it should be. And this Road Review Committee came about out of personality and differences of how to run a situation, okay, a few years ago. So,
30 years,
whatever. So I'd like to see road review as far as capital improvements back to Public Works.
Yeah.
And if that becomes one of the wishes of the board, certainly we can do that and identify it as public works projects, which bundle road review projects, and they all fall under that bigger category, if you will.
I think we need a session with what today is a road review committee, and Doug and us and Nancy, and have a, because we're gonna, there are some things that Doug will submit from the road commissioner's budget that probably should be construed as capital, right?
Yeah.
And certainly the stuff that the road review is presented, you know, is improvements to the infrastructure, right? So that those would be capital plans for those issues, but somehow we just need to make sure that we bring that all together.
I agree. I think the road review committee, I think, definitely needs to continue, but it should be under, it shouldn't be, will it have its own budget? It should be under Department of Public Works.
Right.
They're advisory.
Well, I mean, it's an advisory committee, and it was set up as an advisory committee, if you look at the title, the advisory committee to the Board of Selectmen, right? When it should be, it's an advisory committee to the citizens of the town of Waterboro, basically, right? But I'm not sure that we want to give them that much independence, but I mean, I think that from an infrastructure perspective, that's what they're advising, so.
And at some time, if we have a, let's say, a Department of Public Works with a Director of Public Works, then the road review committee can come under that Director of Public Works too. It'll be an advisory committee to the Director.
Any other questions from the board?
Thanks, Tom, for pulling everything together as you have in the past.
Well, I think what the greatest asset of pulling this together each year, it keeps us aware of the projects that either are building or new ones that have occurred. If there's, after reviewing the details in this, if there's anything additional that the board would like to see in the future, and we've already mentioned a couple of things, the bundling of public works projects with road review, just let us know and we'll do it.
Thank you, sir. Oh,
And additionally, although Ruth is not here,
Probably turn around, I know who I am.
although Ruth, our head librarian's not here, she's asked me to bring to your attention that at some point, after you've gone through all the workings of the budget process, maybe somewhere later in the winter, we could get together and share with you the pro bono work that's been done to explore any possibility at some point in the future, if funding is available, to do something with the library. Jake Ryan, who I hope to bring in here sometime this winter, we need to offer him a big applause for all the work that he's done. It was all pro bono, and it was really significant architectural work.
Is that from Right Ryan?
You know, I need to ask him if there's a tie there, if it's one of his relatives or not. But he's a phenomenal gentleman who stepped up to the plate. We made an arrangement with the Boston Architectural Center, and he got some of his practicum credit. He's a builder/architect, and he offered it all to the town of Waterboro for free, and I think that's just, in these times, really quite amazing. And when you see the detail of the work, I think you'll be very, very impressed. I certainly was. But when the chair would like to schedule something, just let me know. Thank you.
thanks, Tom.
Tom, appreciate it. Yes.
I'd just like to make one comment on the CIP for road review. I just want everybody to know that we worked hand in hand with the road commissioner, and the road commissioner had a lot of input on what we're doing. So it's not that we're doing this on our own. We worked very hard to put this together with the road commissioner. In fact, without the road commissioner, we probably wouldn't have got as good a CIP plan as we have this year.
Thank you. Is there any other comment or discussion on Mr. Ursh's presentation, or comments from the chair of the Road Review Committee? Okay, our next item up is hearing of delegation. Is there anyone present who has anything that they'd like to bring up to the board? Mr. Buffard, yes. You don't have to. I guess he's adjusted that microphone, just as long as you can identify yourself so she can get it for the record.
Okay, it's Roger Buffard. Property I'm concerned about is 537 Suffolk Trail. Was here last week. Haven't heard from Mr. Foglio, and I haven't heard from Mr. Littlefield where we stand as far as the plow.
Okay, I spoke to Doug. He's going to talk to his person down there that does that particular area. He's going to come out, 8 to 10 feet from your fence, and then it would be up to you to, clean that off.
I'll clean it off as the winter goes, but I'm going to keep it away from my fence, and I'll maintain the entire area, from the brook all the way to the boundary of the property. But I was just concerned to know where we stood on it, because I haven't heard from anybody. Okay. The other thing is, I think I see it under new business, or I could probably be misreading it, about the survey.
I have been advised by the town administrator, well, first of all, there's no money in the budget this year for the survey, so it will not be done during this year. If it's done, it'll be done through appropriation for in the next fiscal year.
Meaning 212, or it's not 211?
It would be in the 212.
Okay.
The other thing is we've had communication with our attorney that indicates...
That was my next question.
Yeah. Let's see. This is from Ken Cole, the town attorney, says that he wrote to Attorney Ordway on July 26, reminding him of his letter of June 24, requesting an engineered proposal following an executive session by the Board of Selectmen on June 23rd. He has never received a response from Attorney Ordway.
I spoke to Attorney Ordway at 5:05 this evening, and he was going back in his computer while I was on the phone with him, and no such. The last that we got is that Nancy Brandt was studying and was going to file her recommendations on what should be done. And that's at 5:05 of this evening is when I spoke to him.
This communication we have from our attorney is December 12th at roughly 8 o'clock in the morning.
So I don't want to put this on the back burner. I'd like to see where we're going with it so I can discuss it with my attorney and see what we have to do.
Based upon what it says here, my best guess on this would be to have your attorney give a telephone call to the town's attorney.
Okay.
And rekindle this, if that's, what it's going to take, to get this thing going again.
All right.
That way we don't have you coming in here with one side and we have something here,
Exactly.
That we can
Right.
get this thing going and not have a...
Because it was put on the back burner, and I understand that. But now I think it's high time to move forward. And I had a discussion with him tonight, and he says, see what they tell you, and we'll go from there. Okay, now the new business that I'm seeing on the docket, I guess you want to call it, whatever you
Well, I
want.
had that put on the agenda prior to receiving this communication.
All right,
There are some other things that, we wanted to discuss because from the purview of the Parks and Rec Director,
Mhm.
is he has an opportunity to have some people townspeople in Waterboro trained as milfoil inspectors at no cost to the town, so we wanted to bring that to the attention of the board, and also to, you know, let them know that we'll potentially be looking at possibly a survey in the upcoming fiscal year. So it's just a generalized discussion, but one of the things we're going to, you know, hopefully going to talk about is the issue down there by your place, but like I say, we've gotten this communication from the town attorney, so it sort of negates that particular portion of it.
Right. One thing totally different than what we are discussing. And I talked to Mike DeAngelis, and he said he tried to get something from the state, a grant or whatever, is put a no-wake zone in front of the boat launch area, slow zone or anything in the water part, because it is ridiculous down there. They take off from about 10 feet from shore, full board, jet skis, boats, power boats, no matter what, and wide open, right off that doesn't even clear the swimming area. They're wide open and heading out into the lake, which
But
is...
the Lake Association did most of the no-wake zone identifications and
I spoke to them last year, as I was out there boating myself. They were putting one by the island where the little house is there. I don't know if
there is one.
they were putting it out there, and I said, you know, another great place would be right off the launch.
That one, that island, been there for years.
Which one?
The
By
one
the
up on
island,
that
yeah.
little island.
I
I
think they
believe
would
the other
replenish new
one,
ones.
I believe the Lake Association has some efforts going with regard to no-wake zones and whatnot, so it might be, they certainly will have more influence probably than what our Parks and Rec director, nothing against Mike, but other than that, he's just not in a position to.
Honestly, the town administrator tomorrow to, you know, follow up with the chair of the Lake Association.
The other issue, the other thing that you can do with that, state law prohibits wake zones within a certain distance from the shoreline, and so if it's a continuing problem, probably one recourse is notifying the warden service. I know they spent a fair amount of time
put a
here
lot of
last
time.
year,
Okay,
and
they
so
put a
if
lot
they
of
know
time.
about it, and even getting the serial numbers off of the boats that
Right.
are violating and passing that information along to the warden service is helpful as well.
He wrote quite a few tickets last year.
And if there's a presence down there and people recognize that,
They spot them a mile
Yeah.
away. You know, I mean, there's a warden in the area, and everybody behaves.
yep.
And after that, it's...
But if he's writing tickets, the word gets out and then you start getting some compliance because, you know,
Right.
people recognize that, oh, there's enforcement on the lake, so.
Mhm.
But the warden service would certainly be the venue to
Okay.
probably deal with some of those issues.
All right. Referring back to one thing, will I be notified as far as the discussion from this, or just have my attorney get a hold of the town attorney? Okay, cool.
Just have them give him a call tomorrow,
Okay,
and, you know, so you can rekindle this.
okay.
If you want some type of follow-up correspondence, I can have the town administrator send you something based on,
If you could, you can email it to me, or you can...
I assume the town administrator has your email address?
No, I'm willing to give it, that's not an issue.
Okay.
Would I give it to this lady?
Yeah, if you'd give it to Christina over there at that little
I
desk.
just don't want to put it out on that.
Well, I understand that, yeah, that's why I didn't ask for it.
Okay,
So,
I can do that.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else who has any business they'd like to bring before the board at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to correspondence. We have a letter from the Road Review Committee regarding Chadbourne Ridge plowing request with a recommendation, I believe, when I read it over. A motor vehicle report of November 2011, Representative Libby's newsletter, and a letter from the York County Community Action regarding fuel assistance. If anyone has any interest in any of those, they can see the town administrator and look those over. Reports, the selectmen's reports. Any selectman that has anything that they want to bring up this evening?
A couple small things. Recreation Committee did not meet last night. In that Mike was in here the week before and basically reported to the board. I met with him yesterday afternoon, so went through a few things, especially his capital improvement request.
No, go ahead.
And I went to the SAU 57 initial board initial budget meeting last week. The situation there is that, again, they may get a little bit of extra money from the state, but that will be offset much more from the loss of government funds. So when federal money was put in for a stimulus package a couple of years ago, that will be totally gone this next year. So that money will be lost, but they should be getting a little bit more from the state. The net is probably a loss. So once again, the income to the district will be probably less than it has been the year before and the year before that.
So they're looking at an increase again this year from the municipalities?
Well, I got a feeling that, and they haven't got to that point, but I got a feeling what you'll hear is to maintain the level that they are now, it will cost increase. There'll be increased money. So there was nothing specific there. Part of it was asking the few people that were there what you thought about certain issues and things like that, and it really was, there was not a great deal of information other than the loss of federal funds and possible increase a little bit in the state. Net loss.
Do you have an update for anyone on the events of last Friday night?
Friday night was, we all were there. Friday night, we had our first annual, hopefully annual, spaghetti dinner for staff and volunteers, kind of a welcome into the season. And I think we probably had close to 70 people there. It was just, I felt, I was in the kitchen most of the time, but when I went out into it just felt really relaxed, and people having a chance to talk with each other, and a family could come in, and you could go in and spend 25 minutes and leave and go shopping or whatever you needed to do with a Friday night, or you could come in and hang out and be with people. There was no major agenda. I think it was, I think that just by the number of people there and that people had a good time. Hopefully, do we do it again?
I know that David had a real good time there, and he spent a good portion in the kitchen with KP duty after.
Well, the meal was great, there's no question about it, and certainly Tammy did a lot of work and everyone else, but John did an excellent job. He over and above and put a lot of time into that, and Nancy and Diane Holden also put a lot of time in after.
And Christina.
Everybody else left, and Christina, there's no question about it, so it was a good time.
I understand John was in the kitchen for most of the day. I think John is the one that recommended that we do this, took the lead on it, made sure that it happened, and I know, John, that you had some help doing that, but I think you were certainly,
I love doing that. I wouldn't want to do it every day, but I do enjoy doing that.
But John, I think that you deserve a lot of credit for this dinner and for its success, because you were the one that took the lead and really ran with it, and I know everything that I heard about it was very positive.
Great.
The employees, the volunteers, the committee members, everybody really enjoyed it. There was a festive atmosphere, and it was nice seeing everybody. And John, I think a lot of that is because of you, and so thank you.
Dave does great dishes. For anybody out there, that needs, that has a party and wants their dishes done, give Dave a call. He'll does great
And
pots and
after
pans.
dishes, he can teach you the Zumba. And,
Hey. Couple of moves that you could use, God.
yes, there is some moves that I could use.
I understand there's a new Zumba studio that is going to be starting up in Waterboro. Are you one of the instructors?
Well, I haven't been asked, but I hope I am.
He has a new calling.
Can we get a picture of Dave in an apron doing dishes for the website?
I don't think he was wearing an apron.
No, it wasn't.
No, he didn't have no
I
apron
was
on.
roughing it.
He was roughing it.
He had to, at one time, I didn't know, but maybe it was just a wet T-shirt contest going on in there with, well, Dave was trying to model the wet T-shirt.
I do have some photoshopped photos that might not be, a couple of them may not be necessarily for publication, but the other ones they're certainly all funny, but any other items that we have? Yes, Dan.
I just mentioned that we met, the budget, York County Budget Committee met again last Wednesday night. The sheriff presented his budget, and with that, we have now had all of the department heads make their presentations to the committee. So tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, we are going to review the budget as a whole and start taking votes on our recommendations and setting up a public hearing. So things are moving along at a very good pace, and hopefully we'll be on task to get this completed before the end of the year.
Dave?
Yeah. Glad to report that there are holiday lights at the Taylor House and Museum next door, compliments of the Historical Society. Look very nice. And tomorrow night, there's a special meeting of the 2020 at the fire station, Central Fire Station, at 6 o'clock. And David Nostrom of the Conway School is going to be there and discussing the school, the Conway School's assistance to the town. And invite anybody interested, the public, or the selectmen, to be there. Again, that's tomorrow night, Wednesday, at 6 o'clock.
At the Taylor House,
No, at the Central Fire Station.
at the Central Fire Station.
Taylor House is going to be pretty cold if you go over there.
You can go there if you'd like.
Any other item? Dennis?
No, so,
All right. I had briefly mentioned it last year, there's some changes down at the transfer station, if we could have the first slide. Mentioned the new sign. This was purchased with a state grant, so it didn't cost the taxpayers of Waterboro anything. And it gives you a breakdown, they keep the data on the statistics, gives you a breakdown of how much money that you saved last month by recycling. And certainly it'd be in your best interest to try to continue this trend and make it an upward movement here, because you can see that that's $2,890 that we don't have to come up with in taxation. And that's, like I said, that's for 1 month, so you add that up over a course of a year, and so now we have some substantial savings. So I think it's in the best interest of all the citizens is to try to recycle as much as possible. I know that the strong advocates on the board here, and Dennis and David, that have repeatedly mentioned, recycling in the course of meetings over the last couple of years. Could I have the next slide? This is the new recycling container or crusher parking area. We've had that paved. So this is the looking back down towards the metal portion where the drainage is here, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. And if I could have the next slide. And this is right by the compactor itself. And I know it got a lot of use. I was down there Sunday, and that place was packed. I was down there probably for 45 minutes before I could even get these pictures, because there was always a vehicle in there, and I kind of wanted to get it like this to be able to show everyone. If I could have the next photo, please. That's a large overview there. And this is the new pad that was asphalted in front of what's the salt shed. And they've also put in like a small loading ramp. Next slide. You can see it right there. This is this had a dirt floor. This was at one point infested with various forms of wildlife and rodents and so forth, but through the diligent efforts of the road commissioner and his crew, they encouraged those occupants to find find apartments elsewhere. And the floor has been poured in there, and you can see on the left side and the back that there's a furnace which was taken out of the North Station before that was decommissioned, and it's going to be put in there. So they're scheduled to have an overhead door put on that, so that now that there'll at least be a warm environment for the mechanics to work on some of the town vehicles in there. That's just a close-up, and that's it. Okay, the town administrator's report, we're going to dispense with that this evening. She is at a school play, I believe it is. The next item is a report from the SRCTV Board. I believe we have the gentleman representing us, who also was partook of the spaghetti dinner. Yeah. You certainly have the floor, sir.
I think I represent the executive of the cable committee.
Oh, you do? I thought that's what that was.
David has got David does the,
Oh, you're the,
He does the cable TV committee.
Yes, David Lowe, representing
Richard's got the
Saco
cable.
River Cable TV for the town of Waterboro. Not a lot of items to report, but a pretty big one. The station has completed an upgrade of much of their equipment, servers, computers, and the way that we connect now, rather than this antiquated foreign software package we were using, we now have a cloud-based server provided by Telview, and it's a much stabler way for us to connect now. So we're not losing our connections. Last year I think I brought discs up there probably every other month because our connection was failing. They had bad connections, bad server, but they've got their internet upgraded there through Time Warner. So we've got a great connection. And again, all the equipment is upgraded, so we're not having all the freezing and the failures and whatnot. The other piece of that is our equipment here is rather old, and I'm sure people at home see a lot of times where the video will cut in and out, or I have to reboot certain pieces of equipment in the middle of a meeting so that we can get the video back online. I'm going to be looking at preparing a proposal to upgrade much of this equipment, if not all of it, and that will either come at town meeting or possibly before that with a special town meeting. There's no cost to the taxpayers for this. This is money that's already provided by franchise fees that are added to cable bills and whatnot. So that the money is there. We just need to kind of work out the permission to spend it and get our systems upgraded here, so we're not, you know, the weak link now. And that's about it, so.
This is going to solve the problem that David mentioned at last week's board meeting.
What was last week?
The delay of either not being able to get, like tonight's meeting, people who couldn't get it tomorrow night.
Right, yeah, the online component of that I'm handling in-house now because I'm able to get it up usually within 24 hours, if not overnight. So I've eliminated the link on the website to the TV station's Vimeo portion because they're usually not able to get to it till the end of the week or the weekend or later. That's the online piece. The rebroadcast of the live program, like of tonight's show, that should be coming, they should be back online with that now. If anybody's seeing where that's not rebroadcasting by Thursday, you know, certainly give a call and you know, to the town hall and, you know, and let us know here. 247-6166, extension 231, and we'll get on top of that. So, but as far as I know, that's back online now that the new system is ironed out and they've got everything working smoothly. I believe that that's taken care of. There was a gap though for a couple of weeks where they were ironing things out because it's all new. So, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Now, I believe you have the floor as the cable TV.
Good evening, I'm Dick Bateman.